Off by World and Early by Jules Maliberry and Notwa Madi. Yes, indeed. It's time for us to have the conversation connected to language. The importance of literacy skills and its connection to language development. That mouthful basically is talking about whether or not, of course, the end game is whether or not you can read and write in your language. The person who would help us analyze and break down the points is right here with me. His name is Josiah Chijindu. Josiah Ibidika Chijindu. He's a linguist, an indigenous language advocate, a public speaker. He works in the he's a human rights activist.
Yeah.
What's the other thing he is again? He's a choir master in his church. He is in the civil society space. And he is trying to force the dictionary to accept a word that he came up with. So many projects on this man's head. But tonight, he's our guest. Good evening, Josiah.
Yeah, good evening, Sam. Good evening, River State and Nigeria. Of course, not forgetting beyond. Good evening from this side of the world called River State.
So beyond rivers, Nigeria and Africa, you're talking beyond?
Yeah, I'm talking about beyond Nigeria.
Like other countries?
Like other countries.
Like Gabon?
Like Gabon, yeah.
Do you think they might be listening to us in Gabon?
No, right now they're actually celebrating.
They have a lot on their hands. Okay. They're very likely
we're not listening because right now.
Okay. Let's leave Gabon out of this for now. How you doing, Josiah?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. Just a little cold issues, but I'm wonderful.
Yeah, I can see you in a sweater.
Yeah, I have to ensure that the cold here doesn't affect the show tonight. Like, okay, people don't understand why you're laughing. See, I'm putting on a turtleneck and I'm also putting on a big sweater, like on top of the turtleneck, like.
Wrapped like baby Jesus. At least that's what they told us. Like he was wrapped. And unfortunately, you and I know that the ACs are not going off.
No, the ACs are not going off at all. The ACs are not going off.
I really apologize for that.
So when it's that cold, I just cover my head like this. For those that are watching, I just cover my head.
That's wonderful. All right. So literacy is what we're talking about today and how it connects to language development, intelligence, and it's a conversation that could have a life of its own.
Yeah.
There's no knowing or telling how far it can go. So literacy, it is defined as the ability to read, write, speak, and listen in a way that lets us communicate effectively and make sense of the world.
Yeah.
That is what literacy is. So most times when a person is called illiterate, it doesn't mean that they are not enlightened.
True.
The dictionary definition simply states that they cannot read and write. So they lack effective literacy skills. Unfortunately, today, if somebody calls you illiterate, it sounds like an insult.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we go back to the definitions of literacy, it has to do with the ability to read and write in a language. Now, many people learn to speak a language but find it difficult to read or write in that language.
True.
There are so many people in this category. So the big question is, why is this the case? Why are there so many people who can speak a language but they cannot write in that language or read if something is written? Josiah?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sam. Before we go there, let's just say hi to the online community. They are watching us live stream. Right, thank you for coming. Great as I see you, Emmanuel. Right, so let me say this. This will take me to a little bit of how language starts, or the history of language in a bit. But generally, we know that language started with speaking. From the biblical point of view, where I also believe, right? Before the Tower of Babel, we got the record that God spoke, right? Yeah. That the first thing we saw in the beginning, He created the heaven and the earth, and then the next thing said, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So we saw a supernatural being being portrayed as a speaking person, not as a writing person. Yeah, so it being portrayed as a speaking being. And when man came, he created man and all of that. We now saw him again having a relationship with the same man. Again, a speaking being. Adam, where are you? Right? And this is covered by the Bible, Christian Bible, by the Quran. And so, Adam, where are you? Again, a speaking being. Now, does it mean he doesn't know how to write? No, he does know how to write. But we see him as a speaking being. Now, the time we saw God as a writing being, or writing person, or writing and divinity, was when he now invited Moses and said, come over, let me write the law. So years has passed and we see him writing. So if we take that analogy from the divinity, which is the creator of language, you now understand that language emanating from speaking is not just something that we put words together. No, it's calculated, and he created it that way. Now, beyond the divinity, we also saw Adam now calling the names of animals according to the Bible, where he said, and then he gave names. So he didn't say he write names or he wrote names. He gave.
Yeah, it's arguable, Josiah.
Yeah, it's arguable because people will say, we are not there yet. And maybe he wrote them first before he called them here.
Yeah, because gave, if you're looking at it from what gave could stand for, it could be oral or written. It's still given.
Yeah, it could be oral or written.
I mean, it has to be spoken, of course, at some point, but you and I don't know if it was written down anywhere.
True, but when we saw entities, descriptions as given by the divine being, we know that there are peculiarities to it. I understand that. But with what we follow or with analogy, we all discover that it has often or always been about the speaking part of it.
The spoken word.
The spoken word. Okay. Now, in history, we also find out that language starts from the spoken word. Okay. From the child, it starts from the spoken word. So it means if somebody is developing language, we don't start writing language first. We start speaking language.
Is that how you started?
Everybody started that way.
Oh, Josiah, I'm glad that it came to this point because I've been looking for an opportunity to actually tell the story
of how you started writing.
Yeah, I remember my mother telling me that as a child, I never really said much. I was a man of few words, which is why I work in radio now, because all the words I didn't speak as a child, I'm using this opportunity to let it all out. Mm-hmm. So basically, as a baby, if I needed something, I'm hungry, I never really said any words. I just snapped my fingers. They will bring book and paper.
Okay.
I just write, please give me food. Wait, I write immediately.
With which of the hands, please?
My right hand, I believe.
The one?
I use my right hand to do it, right? And because my parents are multilingual, I wrote it in English and Igbo.
And Igbo.
Just in case, if you miss the first. Yeah? So I'm kind. Different. It was really
if I actually saw you, I was seated.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
You lied. I have not even said you lied. I'm just saying, I'm just giving them a warning, a disclaimer first. So, so everybody, as I said, started with the spoken word. Now, when we get to the age of 6, where it's assumed that a child should have acquired language to a competent state, right? Because at the age of 6, the child knows how to express himself. Okay. Yeah, at the age of 6. Now, at that moment, that's where the written part starts. Well, fortunately, let me use the word fortunately. I wanted to say fortunately and unfortunately, but fortunately, it has started earlier. Well, when we are growing up, is 6 years old because he just want you to be at home. And you will definitely cross. If your hand does not touch your ears, you're not going to school. Okay. Right. So some persons even stayed at home for 8, 9 years because their hand are yet to cross the other part. And I don't know who gave them that. I don't know who came up. I don't just understand who came up with that, right? But it was as bad as that. Some person would stay at home, 10 years old, and you know the funniest thing, I had a story of someone that at 6, his hand didn't cross, 7, it didn't cross, so at 8, they had to force it.
Very important.
They drag it until it touched part of the ear, and say, "Oh, yeah, enter school."
Oh my.
Really? Come on. Our fathers that are listening to us, right, that were born in 1960s and all of that, if you're listening to us, please call and tell us, how did this thing actually come about? It's one. So, but I was saying now, by that time, 6 years old at our own time, we now started going to school. In school again, we started with the spoken language, because you'll be asked your identity, who you are, your name, and all of that. And then in school, you start learning how to write. Not how to write your language first, but just how to write. Well, again, they're using the English alphabet, English letters to teach us how to write. And then also teach us the English sounds. So you see in that little story, from the divinity down to our ancestors, it has always been the oral language, the speaking language, or the spoken language, right? And that has been the scenario. Our fathers didn't know how to write the language, so they couldn't. The issue of school at that time was not even something we'll talk about. School came in when the white came, the missionaries, right, came down to this place and started, ways to represent our languages. Okay.
We're not looking for. There had to be now. There had to be some literature of, of our indigenous. Sorry, the guys who brought English to us did not invent writing.
No, they didn't invent writing.
Yeah,
they didn't invent writing. But the thing is, there are ways in which our languages represented itself.
Okay.
But the situation we had was that a lot of our fathers didn't actually go in with that. They didn't put that down. They didn't document it. That's the challenge we had. Now, let me not say, okay, does it mean people did not write? No, if you look at the history of writing, you know it started in Africa, in Egypt, okay, with the papyrus and all of that. So there was documentation in Egypt. Even today we could trace that civilization, what we call the current civilization that we have now, started in Zambia or in Zambia, and you could see that because there were documentation. But when you come to Nigerian system, we didn't have that documentation. Instead, we had majority of those documentation in spoken form. Okay. And that's why you will always see us want to go through the what they call it now, the text by moonlight stories. We always want to put up things in songs, the folk tales and all of that. And we enjoy that very well because Africa or Nigeria believed in the spoken form. And they believe that for you to be a carrier of culture, you must be able to transfer the culture with the spoken form. You see, so that's what happened around us, and we didn't pay attention to writing down the language or documenting it in written form. That's again the reason why we lost several of our symbols. And we cannot even say a particular symbols that represent us originally. Instead, we now have to adopt the English because again, they had to colonize us and give us their symbols.
There was a question of availability. If you need to sweep your house, you obviously need a broom. If there's no broom in sight, and I give you something, whatever it is. But that thing is capable of sweeping. That is what you would adopt thanks to availability and convenience. So, whether our symbols are missing or not, the English symbols were available to use. I mean, it's true. Of course, there will be conversations around the timeline. How many years it took to decolonize? When they came, how long, and all of that. But in all, today we speak English. We write in English. You and I are having this conversation in, let me speak in things fall apart language, in the white man's language.
Right? Yeah.
We're not speaking our indigenous languages. Having this, it has become our official language. And now, when you even talk about literacy, people are not even thinking about your language. They're thinking about English.
They're thinking about English. Yeah, and that's another challenge about it. They're thinking about English. When you say somebody is illiterate, he knows how to speak English very well, and he understands English. He uses English in a proper form. But that's, you and I know, and we've said it here severally, that's not the truth. That's not how it is. But the fact that I can speak my language, okay, and I am competent with it, I am illiterate in that language. Now, when we say that level of literacy in a particular language, now comes the writing part of it. Yeah, so because you won't compare someone that only speaks the language to someone that speaks and also writes. Because the person that writes now have a better command of the language. Now, let me put it very well so people will interpret me. That doesn't mean our fathers and our mothers in the village do not have a good command of it. They do, but there is something in writing when you're documenting, okay? You are able to write the language without missing the originality.
Josiah.
Yeah.
Can you write in your language?
Yeah, I do write. I can.
Nice. Is your writing good enough, or you're just patching?
No. I'm not patching. I write in my language. In fact, in one of the Facebook I belong, Ubumini worldwide I belong. Sometimes I write in the language. And
okay. Now, you write in Ubumini. Do you think that you have a better command of your language than your village chief priest? No, wait, because we're looking at if you can write in the language, you understand the language better. If they keep Ezemwa, what's his name?
Do I know?
Okay, don't know. So yeah, who is better in this language? You think it's because of this thing? Do you think you are better than him?
No. So for me, I've told you here that my command of the language is about 60-70%. Okay. Yeah, I have not hidden that. Okay, so I won't start claiming that I am top notch in my dialect. No, that's true. That's not true. But the Ezemo is with the command of the language, with what he has been, he's top notch. But imagine,
top notch.
Yeah.
So he's not going to do incantation.
Yes, of course.
Top notch does not even describe it. He's first class. Look at this language. Person when they use language, they call spirit. Why? No. Don't say this in the village. You're making them model person.
No, but imagine if that same is okay, let's have I don't know if we have that. Okay, 21st century SMO. Now I've gone to school and can write the language. Okay. You see the difference. You see the difference in commanding that language, both in written form and spoken form.
So basically, we have Ubimini vocabulary.
Exactly the point.
Phonetic Ubimini.
Well, I understand.
Okay. So Josiah believes that if you can read and write, you have a better command of the language than a person who can only speak. It is arguable.
Yeah, it is arguable.
Because I've heard people speak fluently, and when they say that they cannot spell or write, you're like, really?
Yeah.
It's difficult to believe or understand, but hey, it is what it is. So, Josiah has given us what he would call the history of language. And we have him on the show because he's a linguist. But he refers to the scriptural history more than he refers to, the linguistic. And it keeps me wondering what's happening here.
No, see, let's not do that. People look at the history from the biblical point, and then you want to separate it from the linguistic part.
Yeah, but
No.
people who believe in the Bible, right? Christians and those who
Yeah,
agree with
that. Yeah, so that's why I also said even the Muslim Quran captures that.
Yeah, so that is scriptural. Right?
Yes. Now, because when you come to the history of language, the first place that people will really talk about the history of language linguistically is the Tower of Babel. And what
it is captured in linguistics.
In fact, in linguistics. In fact, what they will say is, if truly, I remember one of my professors said it. He said, if truly the Tower of Babel exists, that what God did to actually change the language, okay, was to twist their parameters, but maintain the principles. I will explain.
Immediately. No waste time. Start explaining. I will. You forget. I will explain. Maybe later you can forget. Start. Begin now.
Okay. I see. On this show, I've been trying to avoid going into serious linguistics jargons because I know a lot of persons are listening to me and not all of them will understand that.
The problem with that is that you underrate us. That's not the problem. Try us and see. All
right, so now when we talk about principles, okay, we're talking about things like nouns, noun phrase, okay. We're talking about things that generally can be found in all languages, generally. So you have like the sentence, the word phrase, there are a lot. In fact, everything that you could say in 2, 3, 4, 5 languages are principles. Okay. But the way these principles now present themselves in each language is what we now call parameters. Okay. So, for instance, in English, we use this a lot. In English, you say demand, right? There is an an article, a definite article first before the noun head, what we call man, which is the noun. So, but in Igbo, and I think in my own dialect too, you don't say the man, you actually say man di. Yeah, wokan. Yeah. So the is actually the article, while the woke is the man. So when it changes that way, it has actually become something different. So that's what we call parameters. The way the language now presents itself is the parameter, but the ideology is a principle. Okay. Now, so they said, if Tower of Babel actually exists, that what God did was to change two things. One, the lexicon, which are the words, and then the parameters.
This is your professor. That's God consulted him before he did this thing for him to know how exactly it happened. So here's the thing, right? And this is why, as important as education is, this is what I love about it, the fact that I can oppose it.
Yeah, true.
Right? I loved arguing with my lecturers while I was in school, but not to their hearing. But I like to challenge what they said because there were a lot of things that was not quite clear. It's not like they were lying or anything, but it just did not. So if in linguistics you have a statement like, if the Tower of Babel actually happened, and then they start from there, they are beginning with a hypothesis.
Yeah, they are.
That means you're saying, if we are to believe this, right?
Yeah.
Everything that follows is conditional.
Yeah, no, the thing is, the people that actually brought about some of these theories, we are atheists, right? Okay. They didn't believe in God, right? I have to put that in quote. They did believe in God. And some of them were evolutionists. They believe in the monkey, in the Big Bang theory, and all of that. So if you have someone with that kind of mentality, wanting to explain things of that relates to the scripture, that relates to God now that he didn't believe to, he will use a conditional statement. But guess what?
I agree. I understand.
But guess what?
Yeah.
Now, Chomsky wanted to do an experiment.
I like how you just mentioned the name as if we both know who Chomsky is.
Noah Chomsky.
Who made this about guy Chomsky?
Noah Chomsky is the person that they call the father of linguistics.
Okay, Chomsky, my man. Go ahead.
So he said, he actually carried out an experiment. No, he said. So what he did was to get a child. He got two children rather. One of the child took the child to the bush and kept the child with animals. And then the second child was with him. And he allowed that child to also mingle with humans. Now, after about 6 months, he now discovered that the one that was with humans developed language properly and was able to mimic what the humans could say. But the one in the bush actually started mimicking the sounds of the animals and could not mimic the language of the humans. So he decided to keep them for 6 months again to discover if truly what he noticed was true, and he found out that exactly what he did. So what he now did was to now switch them to discover what was going on. And switching them, he now discovered that the one that was actually with the animals that later came back to where the humans and was mingling, started mimicking again the words of the humans, while that was speaking that started mimicking the words of animals. So he now concluded that language starts with stimuli. Okay. Now, Bloomfield, which was one of, again, another linguist, was one that now put it up very well and said that language, you must hear, what you hear rather, is what you now learn. But Chomsky said, no, what you hear is what you actually learn, but that's not what you produce. So it became more argument. Like, so what Chomsky meant was that you will actually learn a language, but when the child is producing or making a sentence, it doesn't make that same level of sentence that you taught it. So, for instance, if you tell the child food or food, okay, and the child have had food, that is possible for the child to now say, give me food, and not just food that you said. But the child actually had food from you, but can now say, give me food.
Well,
okay.
I would align more with Chomsky's theory.
Yeah, me too. I actually did.
The problem with all this is, for most courses, endeavors, there are always dissenting theories. There are always people who come out to try to define a concept, right? And sometimes they are at loggerheads. There's an argument. But I'm curious, was Chomsky ever arrested?
No, he was not. At that time, did they really arrest them? When they say it's for experiment?
They should have had an Ospark of their time, because Chomsky is supposed to go to jail for child abuse. Keep a child in the bush for 6 months because you're trying to. I mean, the linguistics that Josiah has learned from that is not worth the life of that child. And these are the things that a human rights activist should speak against.
I know you're pointing at me.
I'm just saying. How did we let Chomsky get away with this? And we're talking about it on radio. Meanwhile, those kids were traumatized for life. But it's all good. It's all good. Do look it out to Chomsky. Okay. So back to the theory about the Tower of Babel and all of that. And I'm doing this because I love to argue. And I like to give you a hard time. It's one of the many things that I derive pleasure from. If I'm teaching a class, right, and I say to that class, hi, my name is Samar Opportunity. I'm going to teach you about the history of, let's say, language.
Yeah.
Or no, let's say the history of twins.
Twins, okay.
Right? Yeah. How did we, as humans begin to produce twins.
Mhm.
And then I say at the beginning of the class, I am from the southeastern part of Nigeria, so I'm Igbo.
Yeah.
Right? I give that information to the class.
Yeah.
And then I say, the Yoruba people believe that twins came from a mountain.
Yeah.
The Hausa people believe that twins came from a tree. And then I end it there. What question do you think will be on the mind of the students?
How?
Okay, that's one of many questions. But let's say I do a good job at explaining it. What is the next thing the average person who has heard what I have said would ask?
No, but when someone has said, okay, you said tree came from the mountain.
For Hausa.
For Hausa.
Which I'm not.
Yes.
And then for Yoruba, which I'm not. The person will say, what of your people?
Exactly. Or how did you come to this knowledge?
That is what everybody will ask. Okay, sir, you've told us about Hausa, which you are not. Yoruba. What of your own people? So if a person is citing the Tower of Babel experience and starting with, if we are to believe that language started here, and this person, as you say, very likely does not even believe in that concept.
Yeah.
And nobody asks, your own people, sir, you, what is the history of language from your?
Yeah, so because the thing is, if it's the same thing that actually brought about, there are a lot of theories. In fact, there's one they call the ding dong. It's one of those things. The ding dong theory is actually done from the Japanese guys. You know, there's this thing they normally put that makes this ding dong sound. Yeah, so the theory says that language actually started from that the first man, there are a lot of theories. For the believers of Darwin, the evolutionists, the Big Bang theory will tell you that language started when man began to evolve from tadpole, from tadpole to fish to lizard and all of that, until he came to man. And while he was changing from one species to the other, one animal to the other, he was now acquiring language along. So when he came to man, he was able to develop language very well.
I like that.
And we say,
when he was a tadpole, he spoke Nupe. As he changed to fish, he spoke small Hausa. He changed again, he touched Igbo small. See, I don't know how. Josiah, there are some things that I will believe, but fear will not allow me to write it down inside Facebook and send to somebody else. Because how does this sound to the people? Right? Again, I wasn't here. When I see evolution and all these concepts that we see in, which is taught in modern education.
Modern education, yeah.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but because there's a lot that cannot be understood, I don't get the confidence of literally publishing those things. So let's take evolution, for example. I'm not even arguing evolution versus religion. Right?
Yeah.
Let's just argue from a place of common sense.
Of common sense, yeah.
If you say that man came from monkeys, why do we still have monkeys?
And why do we still have man?
You understand? It's an evolution. So the process is supposed to start from here to there. But the two things that you claim are still, oh my God, Lord have mercy. I don't get it.
And then, funny enough, he said man came to become man and has not changed to something else. And when you want to prove that, you now say that man was the equilibrium. It was a man that the whole...
A caterpillar is in transit to becoming a butterfly, right?
Yeah.
It's on the process. It's going there. But you have fully formed caterpillar and you have fully formed butterfly. And you're telling me this came from this. Okay, how come the two of them are now separate entities? That are expressing their wholeness. They are already complete. They said, no, it happened that time, but it doesn't happen again. That time the sun used to shine very well.
The heat. Now there is climate change.
Come on now, what is wrong with it? And people professors taught these things. Like you guys did not even.
And even believing, the funny part is that they believe it, argue it. Yes. Come on now. Come on.
Well, it's all good. Let me do it. Let my son enter school and learn the same nonsense. He has to learn it now, really. Oh, Lord have mercy. It's crazy. It honestly is crazy. But it's all good. So, we're talking literacy connected to languages, how it affects your language development and intelligence. I asked Josiah, why is it more difficult to read and write a language than speaking? And Josiah took me to evolution, took me to Tower of Babel, he took me to Chomsky, and what's the name of the other guy?
Bluefield.
Bluefield. You know, we have talked about a lot, going to the law of first mention, looking at the history before we now get to the answer to this question. So let me ask the same question. Josiah, why is it more difficult to read and write in a language than speaking? You said it's because language started from speaking. It
started from speaking. Yeah. So now, for you to know how to write, there is a formal schooling.
Okay.
Yeah. So you need to now understand the sounds, what the sound is all about. Again, you need to now look at the symbols that a particular language, represents their sounds. Because the symbol we use, unfortunately, we are using an adopted symbol.
All right.
Yeah, the adopted symbol, what we call from English, but not really from English. English also adopted theirs from the Romans, okay, which can be traced down to the Greek. All right, the Greek writing. So it means what we are using, the root is actually from the Greek, right? Now, when we adopted that, we started changing whatever we had to those sounds. So the Englishman comes telling us that A is A and the basic form, right? That is A. Although again, they now told us that if you don't A, you also have A in it, for apple, for age, and all of that. But we now had those sounds and represented that later to that sound.
That's phonics, right?
Yeah. So when we had A, we now remember that, okay, there is a letter written on it, and we put that particular symbol. Okay. Now, you now need to learn this. You now need to understand the letter that matches the sound. So when you now understand the letter that matches the sound, that's when you'll be able to put those things together to make a word. Same thing in the language that don't have those letters that we have here, like for the Chinese and the Japanese languages, that they have their symbols. So their A is different thing altogether.
Use their symbols to build house.
Exactly. You see, their eye is different thing altogether. So you could see them draw something like a carpet, and it's a full paragraph, and you're wondering what's this, because they understand what is I in that place, what is in that place, what is in that place, and those sounds. So that's what happened. You need now to formally know which letter matches with sound. It is in knowing that you'll be able to write. So if you don't know that, you still will not be able to write, even when you're a good speaker of the language. That's why it's difficult. And a lot of persons also have what we call the heavy ears. I kept saying that. The heavy ears in the sense that when you pronounce a particular sound, they find it difficult to get what the sound is, even why the letters are before them. Okay. And then also, there is this issue people have. You don't know when to present. There are maybe two different sounds, and those two sounds are using slightly same symbols. You don't know which to use. Like in English, for instance, you have the s and the sh. Okay. Now, what differentiates these two sounds, the sh, is the fact that the is still s, but the sh is longer when writing it. So and the way it's used also. So imagine where you are presented with the small s and then with the long s, and you don't know that the long s is actually the representation of that sh sound.
Yeah.
Okay, you'll be looking for SH, which is a small s and a H,
Yeah.
to represent that sh sound, and you won't see it. So until someone tells you it is that long s before you, that is actually the sh. But because in writing, in the physical writing, we cannot present it that way.
Yeah.
We need to now look for letters or symbols that will now show us what that thing is. Yeah, so this is the issue that a lot of persons now face when translating into our languages.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Another reason why it might even be difficult with this and the sh is what they both represent. If you remember,
Yeah.
the sh is also used for making statements like shut up. Shut up your mouth. So I can understand the complication connected to it. All right. So writing is definitely harder.
Yeah, writing is harder.
There's so many rules, complications, things that you must learn. Meanwhile, speaking, it just comes.
Speaking just comes. You acquire it from a child, and you're flowing with it.
As we like to say, as the spirit leads.
Yeah. So now, Sam, that doesn't mean there are no rules in speaking. There are, but the rules in writing seems to be more. In fact, are more, not seems to. Let me bring in the Niger, for instance, which is the Nigerian pidgin.
I'm glad you went there because that language is breaking all the rules. All the known rules of language.
No, it's not.
I literally was going to point it out, right? So I'm glad you did. So
No.
rules, there are rules in speaking. And there's a pidgin which you're advocating for. Please go ahead.
It's not at all. Now, there is the argument right now, presently, about how do we write Nigerian pidgin. The first group will say that since it has become Nigerianized, or if there's a word like that, or since it has become Nigerian, now that Nigerian languages are tone languages.
What?
Tone languages. Tone. So what they mean by tone is you have the sounds, the change of sounds actually causes change in both meaning and words. Yes. So that change that we get, for instance, when you say akpa, akpa, those two are two different words. And just by the change in the way I pronounce them, akpa, akpa, they are two different words. So the first argument says, since Pidgin is now a Nigerian language, that it should also go with the convention of the Nigerian language, meaning that it should be a tone language. So if it's a tone language, it also means that we need to now write it the way we write our indigenous language, adding the tones. And that argument, they also argue from the fact that there are particular words in Pidgin that the tones also differentiate. For instance, you have Baba and Baba.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the things. Now, but the other one will say no, that even if Pidgin has become a Nigerian language, that it is better to keep it simpler instead of putting those tones. That the reason why you have some of those things is because of the language that dominated it, which is English, that now work with stress, okay, and intonation. So because of that, you could have those Baba and Baba thing, playing. That is just about where the stress of the sound, where the sound is more stressed, rather, and that's why you have those changes. So these are the arguments. But recently, I think a lot of people are saying it's better keep it plain, so people can write it. Now, this argument in Pidgin this is Pidgin. Imagine when you now go to our own indigenous languages.
Yeah.
I tried out something.
It's more complicated.
Exactly, it is. I tried out something one of these days. I think it should be last year or last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. In my, if not this year, Endo Bumini World Facebook page. Okay, I wrote something, and while writing those things, some of the words that are together, I put an apostrophe. So, for instance, if I wanted to say Abale Abia, So abale, abia. These are two different words. So now, where I have two letters coming together, and those two letters are same. So there is an A here ending a word, and there is an A beginning.
The next word.
Exactly. Now I remove one of the A and put an apostrophe to continue that. Do you know after I finished writing and I posted it, some persons couldn't read it. In fact, one lady literally said that, wow, that this was actually difficult for her to read, but
You have spoiled the thing for her now. You blame her.
you know, that this was actually difficult for her to read, but she was able to get it and she answered. Okay. A lot of person couldn't read it. But recently, when I want to write something in that word, what I do is to write it plain. So I separate the words one after the other. Okay. So if I say na, ma, bia, I put it that way. Na, N-A-M-A, and then B-I-A, that way, so that you not see it. But sometimes, while in fast speech, it might not be that na, ma, bia. I could say na, ma, bia. Na, ma, bia. Now, if I do that, na, ma, bia, if you're not careful, you won't hear the R before the ba, the bia.
Okay.
Because in fast speech, I could delete a sound that is actually present in fast speech. So this is what happened. A lot of persons now write using the fast speech instead of using the exact thing in the language. And that causes more issues.
All right. Many more questions for Josiah, but answers I'm hoping to get from you. Can you read and write in your language? If you can, how did you learn it? How did you learn it? That's the important part of the question. 0817 923 0002. 0817 923 0003. WhatsApp is 080 903 416. Please turn off your radio as you call. Remember the question. Can you read and write in your language? If you can, where and how did you learn it? All right. So now there is informal writing in different languages, even in English. Now everybody's trying to, use shortcuts. If you read the language of text messages, the English words are no longer written in full, right? We're now looking for, ways to abbreviate everything, making everything short. And the craziness, the unfortunate part of it, which I really don't like, is if you see it, you immediately understand what the person is trying to say. I wish that understanding did not follow, so that we stop that culture. But when a person writes that thing and you just read it, you're like, oh, so these are the person.
This is what he's saying, yeah.
Right, and now with, of course, the internet and social media, LOL, LMAO, all that, it's becoming a basic part of our writing. This informal way of writing, can it extend to our indigenous languages?
To an extent, is actually difficult.
Okay.
Yeah, to an extent, it's actually difficult to extend to the indigenous language. The reason is because our indigenous language are tonal languages, as I pointed out before. Sometimes, if you don't even tone your words or sentences, you might not be producing the right word you wanted to.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
Hello, good evening. Good evening. What's your name? Christian, how you doing? All right, go ahead. All right. Okay. They don't have what?
We don't have what? Yeah.
They don't have what? Okay. So, okay. Okay, so let's get an answer to the question I've asked. Can you read and write in your language? My brother, answer the question first. Can you read and write in your language? Mm. Yeah, but we have what we have managed to make our alphabet. The ABCD. The ABCD. If you are from the eastern part of the country, depending of course on where you're from, the ABCD, the way they are not the way is part of our own. It looks very much like English, of course. It's similar letters, but you know, you can also see the differences. That's what. That's what. That's what Josiah is saying. That we have forgotten. It's not that we didn't develop that. The team been there, but nobody knows where it is.
Um,
All right. Thank you very much.
I think let me just point out something. Now, the letter we are using, please, is not from English language. The only thing is that because they colonized us, we saw it from them and also adopted it. They didn't get it originally. They also borrowed it somewhere because it's a universal symbol. All of those things are symbols. Okay, they saw that symbol and found it was easier for them and they adopted it. Now, let me give you an instance. The English letter has 26 English has 26 letters. Yes, which we have the A to Z. But they have 44 sounds. So what letter do they use to now represent the other remaining sounds? You discover that it's the same letter, but twisted in different ways. So that's the thing. We also have ours, but just because they colonized us, the schools we had was from them, okay? And everything basically came from them. We were schooled by them. Now we now adopted what they are using to start using in our own languages. That doesn't mean the majority of our language do not have something original, but we've lost it. There's something in Calabari. I was opportune to go to a program where I was a speaker. I think that was the Rivers State Indigenous Language Association, Teachers Association. Now, after I finished speaking, somebody said something. It was like, there's a particular sound, which is, the sound is the C, the way we write C, okay, turned the other way. You know, we write C from the left side, but it's saying that C on the right side. That it was actually a sound in Calabari. So he was asking that Okanai was saying that they are forcing the people to take this other C, Okay, the sound represented an O, what we call O.
Okay.
Yeah, so an O with a diacritic. So he said they are trying to let the people know that that sound should be written with O and a point below. Okay. But the people told them, no, that sound is not O with this thing below, but that it is that C from the right side. So he was asking, what should we do? I told him, if the people that have the language are telling you that that is how they represent their or sound or their sound, then start writing it that way, because it makes that particular language unique, and it's even good because now you are having a particular language having something different from what we used to know.
Okay. So good evening. Maybe good evening. Go ahead.
Wow, thank you very much.
I have to repeat the question because I'm not getting answers to these questions. Can you speak can you read and write your indigenous language? If yes, how did you learn? That is the question. Thank you very much.
Maybe the speakers are trying to run away from it.
Hello. Good evening. All right, go ahead. Go ahead, please. Fred, go ahead. Okay, beautiful. And how did you learn? Ah,
Okay.
okay, okay. Okay, so the minute had to be written in the local language. Ah, the verse. So at the beginning, of course, you were making mistakes. How did they respond to those mistakes? How did they react? At the beginning, when you started taking the minutes, I'm sure you were making mistakes in your writing. How did they react to those your mistakes? Oh, okay. Wonderful. You were fortunate you were blessed literally among women.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. To have teachers, one thing that good teachers have, and I said good, is patience.
Yeah, patience.
So he was fortunate. Hello? All right. Okay. So when are you going to start learning how to write? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So he can read, but he cannot
write.
write. See me after the show so that we see what we can do for you. Let me see if I can teach you how to write in your language. Nothing will please me more. I have a message on WhatsApp. Good evening. I'm enjoying your show. It's educative. Though I was born and bred in the western part of the country, I can read and write in Igbo. The Igbo Bibles at home are very helpful. Kudos to my parents, and I love reading. I can also read and write in Yoruba. Chini from Rumigbo. That's beautiful.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Thank
Fantastic.
you, Chini. Hello. Good evening. What's your name?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much.
All right. That's right. Who taught you?
Okay. Uh, mm. The diacritic people there, yeah, all the tonal sound, the tones rather. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clement. So we have people who can read and write.
Yeah.
We have people who can read but cannot write.
Mm-hmm.
We have those who cannot do any one. We have Josiah who can. He's trying. Because of that, will be many worldwide. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Hi, Mr. Promise. Go ahead.
Welcome. Okay.
What?
Wait.
Wait. Mr. Promise, wait.
We didn't catch
You
it.
can read in Igbo and comma. You can write in Igbo. Okay. I thought you mentioned another language. Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay. So, how did you learn? Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. I became the FFM.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you very much. Now, two people have mentioned the Igbo Bible.
Yeah.
One on WhatsApp, another via the phone lines. Is it time for us to talk about the role of religion?
That would be a fantastic topic, okay. When it comes to language development. In fact, it's a full day topic.
Because I cannot write, right, in my language. Of course, I can write. But if you open that Igbo Bible
Mm-hmm.
and you start from Genesis chapter 1, and you just start reading what you see there, your mind has a way of making sense of the words
before you, yeah.
Because first of all, you already have an idea of what that scripture sounds like in English.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know that anything I read in this Genesis chapter 1, it just knows say creation 9 happened.
It happened, yeah.
You understand? It doesn't matter what you guys put here. The Genesis 1 of the English Bible states that the creation has begun.
Yeah.
So the words before you would kind of help you make meaning of, what you see, and you've kind of heard somebody say it.
Yeah, and again, your mind has a way of capturing the words and the sounds, the letters. So when you now hear that, it starts spelling it within you because you've seen it somehow. You see, that's one thing with what the Bible, the indigenous Bible did or does. But there is something we need to know. One of the reasons, again, why it's difficult before maybe take more course, Sam, is that we do not have schools for our indigenous languages, or even in the contemporary schools, we don't have our languages being taught. Just the way we learn English. You could see the system that was put in place from the nursery down to the primaries. They know what they need to teach you and they don't rush it. They know what they need to teach you, what you need to learn, the sounds, when you need to learn the sounds, and when you start putting those sounds together. And when you start putting those sounds together, they know when you start using one word, I go up, I go, and those stuffs. Yeah. And then from that, I go up, I go. They start making you know 2 words. They start making you know 3 words. And you're going, you're climbing. These are the kind of things that we don't have in our own indigenous languages.
All right. Hello, good evening. Good evening. What's your name? Your name is what? Prevail. Oh, Mrs. Jane. All right. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's the plan. Nice. Very nice. Okay. Okay. So hold on. Sorry. Let me ask. You can speak, but you can't write. But. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Okay.
Okay, so if he can write, where did he learn it from? Since you cannot write. No, in school. Okay. Okay. Awesome. So will you be willing to humble yourself so that he will teach you how to write? Okay. Wonderful. Oh, he's greeting.
Oh, he's greeting. Oh.
Please, can you give him the phone, please? Please. Give him. He's the one that knows how to write. Give him the phone. Hey, my man. Good evening, my dear. How you doing? Thank you. Emmanuel, very nice to meet you. Thank you for speaking with us. So you can write in your language and you can read, but your mom cannot write.
He said Ozuku.
How? Okay. Oh, am I supposed to speak Igbo? How does that make you feel? Wonderful, wonderful. I like that. Would you consider teaching your mom how to write? Will you think about it? Yeah? Okay, you do it. That's good. You can charge her a small fee. You know, you doesn't have to pay. She can just pay you something small, you know. Because food now is very expensive. Thank you. Thank you very much for speaking with us, Emmanuel. Okay. Hello? Madam. Yes, so just find him something small. We have spoken to him. Just give him small money. He will see what he can do for you. Ah, that's beautiful. You've done well, man.
I like that. That's fantastic.
You've done very well. You have done well. Your mansion in heaven, they are putting tiles there now. You have done well. Mm. That's very good. That's really good. Well done, madam. Well done. Thank you very much. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is beautiful.
There's a small part of me that is jealous. Just a small part, not big. By my left, if it's not my left chest, just a little part.
Sam, you are jealous. Simple.
No, I mean it's not difficult to admit. It's beautiful to see what she has done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's nice. It's fantastic.
Where was even trying to force me to speak Igbo live on air? Can you imagine, man? There's no problem. Let's just leave it there. Hello, good evening. Good evening. What's your name? Huh? Oh, now you say Sabi Igbo well. Which one be doesn't rhyme?
I don't understand. Wait.
Which one be doesn't rhyme? It doesn't rhyme with what?
Off your mic.
Which kind talk with that? Can you imagine this woman being?
It's a dialect of people.
Stop that. Don't stop that in outside though.
No, do.
Which one is not really Igbo? Meaning what? Huh? Meaning what? I'm like, no. Okay. Okay. Oh, come on. My brother, please call back. Call back. I definitely want to hear as much as you're willing to share. But please, that mentality is not really Igbo. I beg. I know that there's, some people like to give into the narrative of Central Igbo and all of that, which I understand there's a more generally accepted. However, that's a dialect. I beg. There's nothing about it as any less Igbo, right? It's the diversity is the beauty of the language.
True.
It brings out the awesomeness of it. So please, Ishinini, call back. Very important. Very important. Hello, good evening. All right.
All right.
Go ahead. Okay. Are you kidding right now? So I say the hotspot. Thank you very much, AB. I have messages on WhatsApp. Good evening, Sam. Yes, I can read and write in my language. I learned it from my language Bible. That's the Bible in my language. Blessing from Igurutali. Thank you very much. Blessing.
Thank you very much.
This one says, yes, I can. First, my indigenous language is my household language. As a Catholic in the Southeast, Igbo is the language for celebrating Mass and music as well as the readings. And yeah, that's true. Yeah. Igbo has been adopted in Catholicism in the East. It's really heavy.
Wow.
It's very heavy.
Wow.
Then finally, growing up in the village contributed to my ability to read, write, and speak. Chidi Uchenna Eke from Omagwa. My brother, your name alone, the three names, we know say
you are totally
you are deeply rooted.
Deeply rooted.
Good evening, Sam and Mr. Josiah. I can read and write Ogoni language very well. Oh, nice. I learned it in my secondary school days because I was a class prefect. I used to write names, a lot of difficult names to pronounce in Ogoni language, especially during manual labor. And also names of noisemaker.
Bad
Names of noisemaker in class. So that really helped me to write Ogoni language a lot. That's from Monday. Bonko. Ibera Bukana. Thank you very much, Monday. Hello, good evening. Good evening. What's your name? My brother, I will not repeat that name. Thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful. Can you read and write in your language? Oh, nice. And really?
Whoa!
Wow!
Come on, let's put champagne for your head.
Brother, you deserve. For real?
Our chaka is not here.
That's nice. That's nice. So why did you stop? Okay. Oh, okay. That's beautiful. So do you have kids? Do you have kids? Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Oh, that's nice. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for calling. Josiah,
this is nice.
We're still managing to read and write.
So, news.
Newscasting.
It's not finished now. You finish work.
And you know, in news, there's always bad news. Imagine using language to tell you to say that government have finally chopped the money. No, that's serious. My brother.
We really get.
No, but imagine using his language to talk about the removal of petrol stop.
Oh
man, that's something.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Please turn off your radio. Please turn off your radio. Hello? All right. If and when you call back, turn off your radio. We'd very much appreciate that. Good evening, Sam and Josiah. I'm enjoying the show because it's fun and educative. I can read and write in my language. I started learning how to write in my primary 2.
Whoa.
Josiah, I don't even know what I was doing with my life in primary 2. I cannot remember. Okay, to primary 3. Thanks to my then Albright Nursery and Primary School, then there's this comprehensive novel we bought that had stories in Kana language.
Okay.
In that novel, there were all the symbols of the language. I'm not sure I would have had the privilege to be able to write if not for that class, because none of my peers then could write the Kana language. As for learning how to speak, I learned it from family because I grew up in my community. I have a little question for Josiah. Thank God. Thank God the question is for Josiah. If you look around in this current day, it seems history is dying slowly. Sorry for saying that. But it's true.
No, but it's true. You don't need to be sorry, yeah?
But that's what's happening. What really is the essence of learning how to write our language? Cabaret James from R4. That's an interesting question.
If we don't write our language, you will lose a lot of things about the language. It's as simple as that. Thank God, how did you go to learn how to write? Because it was written.
Yeah.
So imagine it was not written. You wouldn't have even asked this question today.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's good we document our language, not with the spoken form alone, but also the written form.
Spoken like a true Josiah. The thing is, I mean, you started this message on WhatsApp by saying that we're already losing a bit of our history. Our history is dying slowly. So if you don't write, it's going to die a whole lot faster.
Exactly.
Right? So in order to preserve what is and ensure that, you stop the death of our history, culture, and all of that, you have to document.
You have to document.
So thank you very much. Hello? Hello? Good evening. Good evening. What's your name?
Yeah, good evening. Okay, I didn't get the question.
Says he hopes you're from
Oh,
Ubumini.
no, don't hope. I am from Ubumini.
No, he's hoping.
Okay.
You might denounce your people.
Okay.
He hopes. Yes, read and write.
How do we spell Ikwere before?
I think I have Samuel Wanosik's number, the chairman of the Ikwere local government area.
And so we could call him.
I could reach out and see how we. What?
No, is it?
Is it how do you spell the word Ikwere or how do you spell in Ikwere? What's the question? Of Ikwere? Josiah?
No, but what? I know where he's going to.
I don't know where he's going.
Now, you know, in Ikwere, the original form of Ikwere is Inwarana. Now, that word is what the white guys couldn't pronounce that. So they have to now change it to Ikwere.
Hold on, Josiah.
Yeah, it's gone.
Usually, when a story like this is told,
yeah,
the original word and what they decided to call it usually have a resemblance or a relationship.
It does, but unfortunately
what
for
could
that,
the white men not pronounce?
There's a bit of history on that. I think it was the issue about this Port Harcourt Sea, these things. So they couldn't pronounce the original word.
I understand that. There are lots of other communities in Nigeria where this same thing has happened.
Yeah.
Right? They could not work with what they met, so they had to come up with something that
with something else. Yeah.
So what is the word they could not pronounce?
Okay.
I will let you.
Then you have Inwahana.
So how does that sound like Ikwere?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Now, when the white guys came, I don't know if in the history they were not exposed to that, or if in the history they didn't get that and now give it Ikwere. Now, in the spelling of Ikwere again, there is two arguments. They have the IKWERRE.
Okay.
And then there are people that will say IKWERE without the double arrow.
Okay.
In my field in linguistics, some of us have said, okay, instead of creating confusion, then use the double R for the people while you use the one R for the language. Oh. That went further for some time, but contemporary linguists now are saying no. Ikwere is Ikwere with the double R. Okay. Right? Whether you're using it for the language or you're using it for the people, it is the same, because there are languages that have to spelling with the people. Okay. Right. So these are the things. That's why you see, I don't like diving into all of this political
stuff, you don't because enter, we say you don't enter.
Yeah.
You've dived in.
I don't like entering into these political things because when you start saying all of these things, you start looking at who now brought it, how did they come about, who is championing these arguments, and you will now see that it is basically about politics.
So basically, what you have said is that Walter Accord is an author of confusion.
No, not that it's an author.
He has brought about confusion in this. No, say it.
Not that he's an author of confusion, but the
don't
thing
be
is,
afraid.
Like, no, afraid. Why? Not that he's an author of confusion, but the thing is, we should just come to a point where if we have accepted a particular thing, then let's just run along with it. See, the English people developed their language and they have gotten to this level because they were not in argument with certain things. They all agreed, okay, call boy, and they move on. Started discovering more words and they are going.
Yeah, but it took a while to get to that point. I'm sure they had their fair share of conflicts.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Maybe they eventually adopted the consensus, right? But there must have been some disagreement.
No, even till now there are some. That's why we have a lot of dictionaries, right? The Oxford Dictionary, Cambridge Dictionary, and all of these dictionaries. There are words you find in Oxford you can never see in Cambridge. Not because those words are not recognized, but to Cambridge, it might not be to their standard.
They have beef.
They get better beef.
They're using us to
You know, but the thing is, if we have adopted that equation should be IKWERRE, then it should be that, and not the argument of IKWERRE.
Interesting. Well, the thing is, I'm not a fan of what the white guys, came here to do. They're very good at disrupting and changing.
They are.
But I must say, I don't blame them for not being able to pronounce that word, because even me, when they hear now, I have no idea how to repeat what you just said. So I don't support it, but at least I understand it. I'll be taking your call shortly. We have messages on WhatsApp. If you are curious, you just joined us, you're not here from the beginning, we'd like to know what you are responding to. The question is, can you read and write in your language? If you can, how did you learn it? I have a message here which says, my mom taught me how to read and write Yoruba language in primary 4, but she can't read English. Meanwhile, it was my ability to read Yoruba that helped me read English language. Oh,
whoa, that's
nice.
Fine.
That's really good. Thanks. Mike Adeyinka says, thank you very much, Mike. Good evening. We studied in Kalabari language when we were in school in the 1970s. My brother. We read and wrote same. We still do now. Language is a vehicle of culture, and we are fast losing it since the 1980s. Thank you very much. Jerry Michael from Eagle Island, Port Harcourt says, thank you, Jerry. Hello, Oracle. Good evening. I'm from Andoni. The language is Obolo language.
Obolo.
I can speak my language.
Obolo.
I can write names in my language, but I can't write a book with my language. My brother, I don't think you're alone. I can speak English. How many books have I written? So you can write, but you can't write a book. No problem. Just write letters. Right?
Keep writing. Just keep writing.
Write as much as you can.
Exactly.
After like 6 months, we'll gather everything you've written. Don't let that discourage you. Just write one page at a time. Oracle, I cannot communicate to God fluently in my language to save a life. Queen from Ozoba. Queen. A lot of times when people are talking to God, besides your regular prayer, communication, and checking on God, what a lot of people do when praying is to ask God for help. If and when you find yourself in a tight corner and you need to pray to ask God for help, my sister, pray the language that you understand. You see this God, I've heard stories about him. He understands all languages. So if you cannot pray in your language, my dear, enter the one where you fit, so that God will save you. You understand? You need to be saved. Thank you very much, Queen. Back to the phone lines. Hello, good evening. Yep. All right.
Oh, Walter, welcome.
Welcome back, Walter. Okay. Awesome. Okay, Walter. Well, I'm glad you do have the book. It's important to maintain focus because I'm very concerned about not digressing. The question is, can you read and write in your language?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Okay, well, on the day we are talking. Okay.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you very much, Walter. I'm happy to hear that. Hello, good evening. Hello. Hello. Evening, what's your name? All right, Jocko, thank you for joining us. Please go ahead.
Mm.
Okay. All right. Mm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very
That's
much.
Joku. Hello, good evening. Oh my. We're slowly getting to the end of this conversation. Thanks to everyone who has called and sent messages.
Mm.
Truly appreciate it. Okay, what do I have here? Okay, I've asked you about the informal writing in indigenous languages. I had this question already, but you had already spoken about it. So obviously, an answer has been given. If we have enough institutions teaching people
Yep.
to write in their language,
We don't
yeah,
really.
you said earlier that
Yeah,
we
we
don't,
don't.
so we need a whole lot more.
Yeah, a whole lot more.
So, what would it take to set up an academy, an institution, a school that can teach people to read and write in their language? And we have a lot of languages in Nigeria, so
Yeah,
that's a lot of schools.
that's a lot of schools. But do we really need that? We have schools.
Okay.
We this is where the government should come in. Okay, if we really want to work with the language policy, the last Minister of Education said something.
Yeah, you and I talked about
Yeah, of course.
one policy that was proposed, right?
Yeah, that from
The Minister of Education at that time said something. I
he
can't remember.
said that people the language of the locality should be used as the language of communication in schools.
Yes, yeah. That was it.
Yeah. So, but we know that that is even larger. I'm saying that what we should do is in the locality we should start teaching the language of that locality first. We should start from there. So if I am in Ikwere land now, okay, in the schools I have Ikwere being taught, and then maybe while climbing the step, I can now start adding other languages gradually. Don't push it, So from we have the primary to primary 6, primary 1 to primary 6. If Ikure is being taught from 1 to 3, now from 3 to 6, 4 to 6, the person can now choose one other language to learn. Okay, and that would be fantastic. So if we do that down to the secondary schools and then university, it's easier for people to communicate in one or two languages. All right. So that's what we should do. I don't think we should now. It's fine if we have a university, they call it the School of Language. It's fine if we have a secondary school of that. But to me, we already have the schools. Let's use the schools we have to build on it.
I'll take one final call, and there is a message on WhatsApp. We wrap up this conversation. Good evening. Hello, good evening. Okay, AB, thank you for calling AB. Back. Please, we will need someone else to call. This is the last call for the show, so you've called a couple of times. Let's give another person the opportunity. I'm taking my last call, 0817 923 0002. 0817 923 0003. A WhatsApp message reads, my childhood church, the Methodist Evangelical Movement, introduced in the 80s all over Ogoni, helped me know how to write, read, and sing in Ogoni language. We even taught how to read first lessons, second lessons from children's church until you graduate to the adult church. It was an awesome experience then. I'm so grateful because it is now one of my sources of income. Oh, nice.
Wow.
That's beautiful. Nekabari from Nawatai. Oh, beautiful.
Wow.
Hello? I've lost that call. Hello, good evening. Good evening. What's your name? Please, can you speak up? All right, James. Thank you for joining us. You're my final caller.
Yeah, good evening.
Again, James, we're really struggling to hear you.
Yeah.
Oh my, I'm so sorry, James. I would have to let you go. So I'll have another person as a final caller. Hello, good evening. Mm. What? Hello? Clement? I didn't get that. What did you say? Yeah? What's the question, please? I can't remember. Okay, yeah. If we have enough institutions to learn local languages, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. It's on TikTok. Yeah. It's a very popular song. Mm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Clement. That's a beautiful way to wrap up the show. Josiah,
Yeah. It is.
do you have anything?
Yeah. I think I actually know the person that developed the app. The lady. She was even awarded. And
Oh, great.
I was the time I told you about someone that we wrote requested something to travel, and she got it, but I didn't get it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's the lady.
Okay.
All right. It's I think it's a fine way to wrap up the show.
Yes, it is.
So I just want to thank. We've already thanked those persons listening and recording. So let me also thank those that are streaming in. Nisa Cosmos, Ida Golo, Chidima Paul, Friday Pene, and I'll have one of our fathers, Reverend Oba, okay, joining us online also. So Maureen, Chi, we see you, Martin Swala, Evelyn, Abe, and then greatest I called you before. Thank you very much. Martin says we see your message, and the truth, you're right. The truth is that we base more emphasis on speaking. So from childhood, we actually learn from spoken words. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful time, Sam, and everyone that joined us online, everyone that listened to us and called us, sent a message.
Yes, indeed, it has. Thank you for making the time, Josiah. It was a pleasure, honor, and privilege sharing this time with you.
It's always
To connect with you?
Yeah, so please, if you want to connect with me, I have a page on Facebook. It's called Language Sense on Facebook. Language Sense. Just go to Facebook, type Language Sense, you will see it, and then please follow me, like it. Let's continue the discussion. Then, if you want to also be my friend or follow me directly, is Josiah Eblika, Egbilika, Josiah Eblika. You can follow me directly. On Twitter is at megastarjack, at megastarjack, and the jack is J. You have JEC at megastar, and then JEC at megastarjack, and these are the ways you can follow me. Not forgetting that I also have a blog, a language blog, language languagehealth.blogspot.com. Languagehealth, one word, .blogspot.com. Our last week show has been uploaded there, so you could watch it, and then this one also will be uploaded.
All right, thank you very much, Josiah. Have yourself a wonderful night.
Thank you very much, and thank you, everyone. Peace out.
Taking us away is Basket Mount. Yes, the one you